I decided that I would go back to school, but the job that I had, I could not keep it. So I actually decided to quit that job because it was full time and because it was so far from where I was going to be going to school. And I was actually up for a promotion and I had to decline. Now, it would have increased my pay, and promotion sounds like a great thing, but that was not what I was going for.
Now there's a big fork in the road. Like, I can continue this job and get more pay, but now all of my attention is going to be towards this job, and you may have to let that dream go.
Going to medical school was definitely my priority. I ended up getting, at one point in time, 4 different jobs. Hey, man.
Hey, man. Me home.
How many times I got to tell you not to put your uniforms on my good sofa?
Don't yell at me, woman. I drop my uniform wherever I want. I work 15 jobs. I don't have time for your foolishness. When I come home, I'm tired, damn it.
What's good, everybody? We are talking Q&A about something I think a lot of you all who are listening are going through right now. This is something that I went through, definitely something that Dr. Renee went through, and that is basically what to do when you are trying to get into medical school, but you are in another career or you are doing something different. This is something that we call a non-traditional pre-med. All right. So you ready to answer this question?
Yes. Who are you and who am I?
Okay. Oh, we got to listen. We family with everybody now. Do we got to tell everybody who we are?
Yes, because you have new listeners and they have no idea.
Oh, then you, okay. So let me welcome you all.
Yeah.
Let me welcome you all to the family. All right. Guys, I'm Dr. Nee, host of Docs Outside the Box for the past 9 years. I'm joined by my co-host, who has the most, Dr. Renee.
I thought
Now, we're going to stop right there.
I thought you were going to rhyme a little bit more.
Well, I'm a pretty good rapper, guys. I'm a pretty good rapper. It's to the point where I wrote this rap. Guys, I'm going to put you up on game. I wrote this rap back when I was around 9 years old, 10 years old in Queens, New York.
Your sister might have written it, but okay.
In another episode, we're going to talk about that. So, but that's still through, it's in copyright. It's in court right now.
Between you and your sister?
Yeah, we have this in court.
Those literally 5 lines that you are arguing that...
5 bars. Please understand music.
5 lines? No,
5
these are
bars.
lines, because these are
no,
not
these
bars.
are bars. Ignorant people are a waste of time. That's a bar. But yet they commit the crime. Second bar. You see, understand music, understand how rap is done.
Okay.
So, listen, this is the issue that I have a lot on this show, is that, like, there's an expertise that I bring that you don't have, and then you try to critique me. Listen, anybody else who knows about music, who knows about bars, write in, let us know what's going on. All right.
Yeah, let Dr. Nee know what's going on, because he don't know what's going on.
Okay. All right. We got a question from Jay. Jay says, hi, I'm currently in my second gap year, studying for my MCAT while working a full-time job. And he puts in quotes or in parentheses overnight. So this is an overnight gig on the ambulance as an EMT. Okay. That's busy. I am planning to apply this upcoming cycle. It has definitely been a struggle balancing studying and working for a department with such a high call volume. The longer hours can take a toll on my studying, but cutting back hours is not possible due to my financial responsibilities. Do you have any suggestions on how to balance working while studying? Thank you in advance. I really appreciate the knowledge I've gained from your show. Jay. Yo, Jay, thank you for writing. This is a really good question. Like I said before, I'm just going to be very brief, and then I'll let you jump into this because I know this is more your bag. But so, when you're in medical school, or excuse me, when you're in college, it's super, the path is you are taking your classes. Obviously, you don't have to worry about, there's not many financial worries because more than likely someone has already paid the bill, right? Like you have student loans or, something, you scholarship or what have you, but you're already in school. You already have housing. The next step is once you finish, then you go straight into medical school if you're going to go the traditional route. But someone like me, like I was working, I had to take 2 years off. And for a time I was working at Sports Authority. I was working at CompUSA. And then eventually I went back to Lehigh University and I did some grad assistant work. But before you answer the question, or I don't know how you want to answer the question, do you want to let people know kind of what you did for those 10 years in between and then kind of go from there?
10 years, really, Nee? You know what's really funny is that, like, you try to take these jabs and you think I'm not going to notice, but I got you. You know what I'm saying? I got you. I got the
I
jab.
would like you to center Jay into this. Can you
Okay.
center Jay?
Yeah, you
He
should
needs help.
censor Jay too, because that jab was unnecessary. Anyway, so yes, thank you, Jay, for writing this question. Like you said, Nee, this is a very common issue that I run into with pre-meds that I work with all the time. That work school balance is it's really hard to answer because not everybody's situation is the same. And so the only thing that I can say is one, I can tell you my story. And two, say do the best that you possibly can. Like that's literally all you can do. Now, I will tell you my story very briefly. During my 4 gap years, not 10. Okay. Um, so when I
Is
graduated,
that a jab at me?
no, it's not a jab at you. That's a correction
Oh,
at
okay.
what you
I was
said.
about to say
Yeah, okay.
I could do the show by myself.
You really could
Keep going.
too.
I could.
You really could.
Yeah.
Um, so when I graduated from college, one of the first things that I did was I actually ended up getting a job at a laboratory. It was like a food lab. So like, when you do like those recalls and stuff like that, that was me, right? Be like salad, don't eat it. Fish, don't eat it. Tuna has so many rat hairs in it. If you want to eat it, that's fine. That's what the FDA allows, but it's up to you. So that's what I was doing. I was working at a lab, and I started working at the lab full time during that summer. And by the time the summer ended, I realized that I wanted to go back to school and do some post-bac courses. So I did a DIY post-bac myself. And once I realized, okay, I'm going to go back to school and I don't, one, qualify for student loans because I'm going back part time. And two, I just didn't want my parents to have to help me pay for school because they had helped me pay for college already. I wanted to pay for it out of pocket.
So while you're working this job, you're living at home.
I'm living at home. I am
Okay,
living at home.
got you.
And that's
Yeah.
important also, right? Because it depends on your situation.
And
I was
question,
living at home with
did you
my
try to
parents.
did you apply to medical school while you were in college?
No.
Okay, so you finished, you graduated, and you're like, all right, pack up and everything goes straight to your parents' house, and then you got to
Right.
figure out a job. Got you.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to give you some takeaways from my story that, might help some of you out there. But yes, I was living at home. I didn't want my parents to help me pay for school. They were obviously paying for all of my living expenses, right? In terms of like food, clothing, shelter, not so much clothing, but food, shelter. Um, and so I decided that I would go back to school, but the job that I had, I could not keep it and go back to school the way that I wanted to. And so
Why
I
is that?
actually, because it was full time. So I actually
Mm.
decided to quit that job because it was full time and because it was so far from where I was going to be going to school. I was going to be going to school in Manhattan and I was going to be going part time, but I was working in Long Island. And that just was not going to work for me. And I was actually up for a promotion. They were actually going to promote me to go and work like in a pharmacy part of the lab that they had just started building, and I had to decline. I had to decline. And I was like, no. And the my boss was like, well, why? And I was like, I want to go back to school. I can't take this promotion. Now it would have increased my pay, and promotion sounds like a great thing, but that was not what I was going for. I was not going to that job to stay in that job. And so I had to let that go because that was not my priority.
It
And
was
so
a job. It wasn't
it
your
was a
career.
job. It was not my career.
Yeah.
So,
And then once you realize like, hey, like now there's a big fork in the road. Like I can continue this job and get more pay and, get some of the things that I didn't get before. But now all of my attention is going to be towards this job. And
job.
you may have to let
Exactly.
that dream go of
Exactly.
going into or studying for the MCAT
Right.
or doing post back work. So I get that part.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
So going to medical school was definitely my priority. So I had to get on the ball and start on this journey of doing this DIY. What I ended up doing was something that was extremely piecemeal. I ended up getting at one point in time 4 different jobs. Hey, man, hit it,
So what are
Alfred.
the jobs?
Hey man, me home.
How many times I got to tell you not to put your uniforms on my good sofa?
Don't yell at me, woman. I drop my uniform wherever I want. I work 15 jobs. I don't have time for your foolishness. When I come home, I'm tired, damn it.
What are the jobs that you got?
So I got a job working as and all of these were part-time, obviously, very
Yeah, I
flexible.
didn't know all the jobs you got.
So
OnlyFans.
one was,
OnlyFans.
Me? Shut it. Okay, first of all,
Okay, what was the jobs you got?
OnlyFans.
What were the jobs you got?
But no, it wasn't OnlyFans.
Okay.
And if it were OnlyFans, you would have been my biggest customer. Thanks.
I didn't know you.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I
So
didn't know you. Oh, come on, let's go.
I ended up getting a job at a nonprofit organization, and I was kind of like a marketing assistant.
Okay.
I ended up getting a tutoring job at a high school. I
Okay.
ended up doing another job actually in Long Island that was on the weekends. So it was AHRC, which essentially was for people with developmental disabilities. So I could work that on the weekend. And then one other job. What other job did I get? There was one other job that I got, and I can't even.
Weren't you a teacher?
No, that was a tutoring job that turned into a teaching job. Dang it. If I remember the fourth job, I'll let you know. But there were
So either way, we get the point. You were doing multiple jobs.
I know the last job. I was also tutoring at Polytechnic.
Okay.
So I was tutoring in 2 places, tutoring for high school and then tutoring for college.
Okay.
So, and those were extremely flexible for me, right? And so I ended up having to piecemeal everything, but it allowed me to do the DIY, right? Post back, and it allowed me to pay for school. So for me, that was way more convenient, if you will, right? Because convenience to me wasn't, oh, I have to go here and then I have to go there, I have to go. No, the convenience for me was what will allow me to do the thing that will bring me to my goal. And that is going to be the most convenient thing. So if I have to travel to, 2 different boroughs and go to Long Island as well, then that's what I have to do. And so I was able to do that and really succeed in my postbac because I was able to set my own schedule around my classes and determine how much time during the day did I need to study. Because
And your postbac was at Hunter College, right?
My postbac was at CUNY Hunter College. Yeah.
And just to be clear, this wasn't the way you did it. It wasn't a formal postbac,
Yeah,
right? You did it. You piecemealed it all together.
Correct.
Got you. How did you pay for that?
I paid for that with all those jobs. I paid
Okay,
for
so you
it
didn't
out of
you didn't
pocket.
take any loans or anything like
No
that?
loans, no nothing. I paid for
Oh,
it out
wow.
of pocket. And I worked out something with the financial aid office because obviously I didn't have all the money up front. Luckily, a city college is much, much less expensive than a private school, right? So, one, I didn't have as much money to come up with as if I was going to a private or even a state school. So I worked something out with the financial aid office to say, okay, I want to pay this much now and then this much later. And so they worked with me and they allowed me to pay for school as I went along.
And folks, just so you know, there's thousands of people who come out of this. Like some people who are not familiar with the CUNY system, the City University of New York system. If you're from a different state or you're not familiar with it, you're like, oh, this is like a community college. No, it's not, guys. This is a high powered university that just happens to be run in the city of New York, right? And they have different campuses and some high powered people that you heard of and may not have heard of. Let me type in. You keep going while I look up some of the alumni of SUNY.
There
That's cute.
There are lots of leaders that come from the CUNY system. Lots of prestigious.
My dad went there, so
yes,
he's really important.
He's really important. But yeah, lots of what we would consider high-powered people, very important people, leaders, come from the CUNY system, and so for me, it was a great place to go. Hunter College, in particular, right? Like you said, there are different campuses, and the different campuses can be known for different things. Hunter College is particularly known for its sciences. And so, actually, on the recommendation of my sister, or suggestion of my sister, I ended up going to Hunter College because I was going to go to a community college. That's originally what my plan was, to stay in Long
Mm-hmm.
Island, go to a
Mm-hmm.
community college so I could keep that job. That was, so I want Jay and all the pre-meds out there to kind of understand what I just said. I was going to take my post back at a community college, which, it's not a horrible thing, but it truly is not necessarily the best thing to come from a 4-year college and then go do, post back at a community college. It's not well looked upon, if you will, by medical schools. But I was going to go and do that so I could keep that job, right? I was going to let this job derail what I wanted to do. And so instead of staying at that job, I ended up quitting so that I could put myself in the best position possible, in the best environment possible, to be able to get an education that I knew would help me get into medical school and to
I
study
kept, I kept,
that.
I made a list of the things that, when you're trying to balance studying for med school and you are not in college, right? So you are in another career, or you're considering, like, you're in that transitory state, like how you were and me, like you're in your gap year basically, or your gap years, and you're trying to figure out what to do. But number two I have on there is choose the right job. So I have here flexible or part-time work, low stress jobs, and remote work. And what I would say to Jay is I agree with you. Like, Renee's advice is, what she did was ideal. In essence, she prioritized getting into medical school over all the jobs. Now, the situation is a little bit different because she could stay with her parents. Parents would cook, they provide food, housing. Like, that's a huge expense that she ain't got to worry about, right? All she had to worry about, in essence, was getting into med school. You had to take care of your classes, you had to get transportation there, and you had to get jobs and so forth. That's what you had to do. But I definitely think that one of the biggest things right now, Jay, is to determine, is your job more important, or keeping your job more important than getting into medical school?
Mhm.
And that's the fork in the road. And you may have to take several jobs. You may have to cut back and do something else. I'm going to tell a quick story. So this is somebody that I'm super proud of. Now, not in medical school, but in another genre. So my nephew right now, who's about ready to graduate from law school, graduated with a degree in, I think he graduated a degree in finance. And he was working at various banks after college and just doing the bank thing, right? Like, working like not a bank teller, but like the person who has a small little office that goes and,
The little
you
desk.
tell the little desk, and you talk to them about your banking and so forth. And at the end, they're trying to sell you, why you should invest your money with them and so forth. Something that was very unfulfilling to him. And he all of a sudden told me, like, he's like, hey, Nee, like, Uncle Nee, I want to go to law school. And I was like, okay. And he kept telling me this over like several months. And then he finally said, hey, I have a plan. I'm leaving my job and I'm going to get into law school. And I was like, well, how are you going to do this? And he told me. So I'm going to be very honest, guys. So what he did was,
Yes.
over that year, I was very impressed with him. Over that year, he put his head down and he saved money like crazy. Number two, he moved into a neighborhood that wasn't the greatest, wasn't the worst, wasn't the best, but he moved into a neighborhood that, in essence, is where he kind of grew up in. He wasn't currently living. He moved into this small little apartment. It was like a basement apartment, right?
Save
So
money.
he was able to be in an area that he was going to be safe, that was going to be low cost, and that, in essence, he was going to be left alone, and he was living by himself, right? And then he made sure, three, that he developed a plan that he was going to study for the LSATs. And no matter what, that plan was going to take, like, there was nothing else that was going to get in his way. Now, granted, at this time, he wasn't married. He wasn't married at this time, was he?
I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, no children, and then he left the job. And for several months, 6 or 7 months, this is what he was doing. And then he called me one day and said, hey, this was my score in the LSAT. And 2 weeks later, he's like, I started getting these, acceptances, or however long it took. I started getting, he started getting these acceptances. And I was really proud of him. I know sometimes people are like, well, law school is different than getting to med school, but I was pretty impressed by his grind, right? Because he made a plan to be like, look, what I'm doing right now, working in the bank, I know that that's what I was studying and that's what everybody is expecting me to do, but that's not what my heart is telling me to do.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to sacrifice and save like crazy. And I'm going to move into a neighborhood that I may not want to live in. And I'm going to be uber isolated. And I'm going to study and I'm going to follow through on that because I got to get to my ultimate goal of becoming a lawyer. And now my guy is, he's graduating, in a couple of months and he'll be done. And I'm super proud of him.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm trying to say, Jay, is that you can do this, but it's going to probably have to look different than how it looks for you right now. Right. I don't know if you have children. I don't know if you have a spouse. I'm not sure about your social situation, but it's something that you may have to embrace. And I think it's something that a lot of people do. They don't necessarily think that they're doing it, but that's what they do, where they're just like, look, I'm going to have to change directions. What's good, everyone? This is Dr. Nee. Yo, this is the end of this segment. I appreciate you for listening, but this ain't the end. If you want more, go ahead and click the next button on your favorite podcast app. Listen, that's next for more banter between me and Dr. Renee. That's next for more topics. That's next for more segments. Listen, did you hit next yet? Go ahead and click next. Hit it. Next. Peace.